Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer
Frank Pace. And retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
My brother Frank. How are you, pal?
How are you doing?
The new year, brother. We're heading for this new year.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? We did 52 episodes this year. Plus 20 the year before. That's 72, 73 episodes. That's crazy. I'm not going to know another 52 people to get us through this year.
Yeah, every now and then I'll throw in an oddball. I'll throw in some drunk that I hung out with somewhere. You hung out with a better class of drunk than I did, Frankie. I got to say that. You always hung out.
I guess I'm good for 20 more, but then after that, it's going to be pretty rough going.
You know, when we started this, I knew, you being a producer, some of the people you knew, directors, movie stars, sports figures. But the thing that gets me, man, everybody we meet, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just the same way I do. And
just a better brand of pants.
A better brand of pants. Exactly. It's just a better brand of pants.
And a better brand of shoes and a better brand of socks, but not a better brand of humor.
But you know what? You can only eat one lunch. You can only eat one dinner. It doesn't make how much money you got. You can't go out and eat 6 lunches.
Yeah, but you can go out and
you can go out and buy around.
Maybe eating cat food, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, somebody gets.
Can we say hello to Derek?
Hello, Derek. How are you? Happy New Year, Derek.
Huh?
Happy New Year, you mook.
Oh, thank you, Billy. Happy. And what does mook mean exactly?
It's a euphemism for not too smart a guy, I believe.
Yeah?
In Italian.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Happy New Year.
Fuck you.
Happy New Year, pal.
Fuck this, just like that?
Fuck you.
Fuck me, fuck you, fuck
I got a question to start off this episode.
Oh, yes?
Yeah.
You're saving that, huh?
Yeah.
By the way.
7.5 inches.
By the way.
Oh, I had to come back for that.
This is our Derek show. Derek has been dying for us to do just a show with Billy and me talking. That's Billy and me. Not Derek. Not Derek. Billy and me speak.
Yeah, well, you guys look like you were having a hard time, so I thought.
So we're trying to do one show just with Billy and myself.
A little light banter.
A little light banter, a little storytelling, a little fib telling, et cetera, so forth. But now let's patronize Derek and hear his questions.
You thwarted him, Frank. You thwarted him.
Oh, I forgot my question. Go ahead, guys.
No, ask your question.
How long have you guys been old?
I don't know, because I'm not old.
Well, see, Frank's got that attitude. He's not old,
You define old. What's your definition of old? Because it doesn't fall into. I don't fall into.
Do you know anybody that's old?
Oh, I know a lot. I know a lot of people that are 20 years old that are old. I know people that are 15 years old. I know 80 years old people that are 80 years old that are not old. Howard Storm's going to be 90. Howard Storm is not old in my book. Joel Zwick is going to be 80. Joel Zwick is anything but old in my book. So it would take a guy like you to ask that question.
Yeah.
I got the feeling that when you're getting old, you can tell because you feel compelled to give advice.
Yeah.
You feel like you don't get any smarter when you get older. You just don't get any smarter. I mean, I've never been smart. I'm not smart now. But
I'm smart.
I'm smart.
I'm smart.
I'm not dumb like everybody says. You just feel compelled to give advice. Like you think you've seen it all or seen something. Do you get things that give you a rise anymore? Like, I mean, a big rise. Like somebody says to you, you want to go to a World Series game. All right. I've been to a World Series game. It's okay.
I've been to a World Series game, so I wouldn't.
Like Michael said before about Reggie Jackson hitting 3 home runs. I was at that game. I bet on the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Every time he hit a home run, I went,
No, I think that's a good question. What
gives you a rise now?
Yeah, go ahead.
What gives me a rise?
Yeah. Your grandchildren.
Grandchildren, exactly.
But not a $500 a plate restaurant or a first class to Europe. I mean,
no. I mean, all of those things are nice, but they don't give me a rise.
Because you've done them.
Yeah, but I don't want to go back to cat food. But I would rather I would rather fly first class.
What do you mean back to cat food? How long were you eating that shit?
A couple times in high school. Not in high school, in college. But things, I think the biggest kick I've got is now grandchildren.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to enjoy life again through their eyes. I get to see them discover.
Vicariously, you're living through them.
And I love I revel in my friend's success. Derek's daughter is going to be working on night court. That makes me happy.
Yeah, because then you were able to do something for Derek, which is nice.
But
don't forget, having grandkids for you is new.
I didn't do that for Derek. I did that for Nia.
And for yourself, because it's a gift giving. It's nice to be able to be in a position to do something nice for somebody.
Yes, I paid it forward.
Yes. But you say right now you get a rush out of having grandchildren. Well, that's new to you. Something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
is it going to get old?
I hope not. I wouldn't think so.
That's what I said.
But those are real things. That's not like the $500 dinner or a first class flight to Moscow, whatever.
I mean, I could go to the Rose Parade every year if I wanted because it's a mile from our studio.
Right.
But I choose not to go.
Yeah. The New Year's Eve, Times Square wouldn't do nothing for me. Mardi Gras, that wouldn't do
things that give me a rise are going to see people that I value in places that I haven't been for the last 2 years because we have been unable to travel.
Well, I'll give you a little kudo. I mean, actually, this gives me a rise. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. When we started, I look back at some of the people we've interviewed, and some of them were, childhood idols. Jim Maloney from the Reds. I always admired him as a pitcher, and and the guy turned out to be a great interview. Just a terrific interview, and it's fun for me to meet people in all these different fields, and see that, like I said, one leg at a time. It's the same deal, and everybody talks about luck and being in the right place in the right time. And
David Scott,
man
who walked on the moon, was on our podcast.
And you know what?
Can you believe that?
You know what I remember the most about interviewing David Scott, which I'll never forget the answer he gave. When I asked him about being a fighter pilot, having the juice of being a fighter pilot, or standing on the moon and looking at the earth, and he told me he got more juice out of being a fighter pilot. More,
yeah, no,
that blows me away. Like, it's those kind of things.
Well, David's words, and on the moon, he was just doing his training. He was just doing what he was trained to do.
And I never mentioned the word fear. And either you were talking to. I said apprehensive. I was trying to use a little euphemism. Were you a little apprehensive when you got out of that capsule and you were standing on the moon? And he said, no, never. Just training, just going through it.
When Captain Sullenberger landed his jet
in the Hudson,
I asked David, what did he think about that? He said simple. He said, pretty good piece of flying.
That's it. Pretty good piece of flying.
But he did that. Then he said he did that because he was trained to do that. His training kicked in.
But you know what? In times and the few times I could say, like I told you, when I was on a job on a fire department for 20 years, maybe 5 or 6 times I thought I was going to buy the farm. I thought, this is it. You ain't getting out of this one. This is it. Majority of the time, it's all, routine. But during those times when it's not routine, that's exactly what happens. The training kicks in and you're just trying to revert to that and let it take its course. I'm sure.
Well, Rod says that with hitting.
Yeah.
Rod says,
Rod Carew.
Rod Carew. I talk about Rod lining a double down the third base line. I said, how'd you do it? He says, I don't know. My training took over. I've heard that so many times, and I heard an actor. How'd you do that? My training took over. It's a great thing to be prepared.
Yeah, preparation's the whole deal, right? The luck is 90% preparation or whatever. Some adage like that that I just threw out there. But yeah, you got to be ready. You got to work. I don't know if you had somebody gave you a new career at this juncture. You're 72 now?
72 next month.
72 next month. If somebody gave you a new career opportunity at this juncture, you think you'd have the energy to go through with it? You think? I look at these presidents, 78, 79.
That's a good question.
I don't think I have the energy.
Would I have the energy to go through this? Well,
if I made you president, you were president, elected president at 73 or 74. Do you think you'd have the energy to do the job?
Maybe. But because I would hire well. I would hire well. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
I would hire well and delegate the things that I don't know and keep my finger on every one of them. But, you keep your finger on so many things. I mean, that's a job that nobody can ever do a good job at president again because
I think it's too complex.
It's too big a job.
I think it's too big. I think you're right. I think it's too big a job, and I think anybody who wants the job should automatically be disqualified.
Correct. Yeah. Anybody
I
who wants
swear to God, anybody who thinks I'm the only guy who can fix it, that should be you're out right off the bat.
Yeah.
And look at the way these guys come out. We talked often about LBJ.
Yeah, I mean,
was he 64 when he died?
63, 64 when he died. He looked like he was 75.
Yeah, he definitely looked 10 years older than me, and I'm 73.
He was old.
Yeah, the job did it to him. Look at Obama. Came out gray-haired.
But he came out gray-haired. That wasn't all so much for the job. That was because it was 50 going in and 58 coming out.
8 years, he aged. 8 years, he did.
I know.
And he worked out every morning and everything else he did. But Clinton looks terrible. Clinton's the same age as me.
Well,
look how good I look, Frank.
Well, he's indulged in some of the same indulgences you have.
He never no way. Well, maybe he got as much. Maybe. But it's like I mean, I definitely drank more than he did. I guarantee you that. And I probably did a lot more drugs than him. He never inhaled. He took it, but he never inhaled.
I'm betting he inhaled.
Oh, he inhaled plenty.
And he inhaled plenty.
Yeah, of course.
And not just inhaling smoke, inhaled as well.
But I don't think anybody. You're right, dude. One of the best presidents of my lifetime, and this is of course subjective,
is Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah, yes. But Eisenhower knew the limitations of the job. He signed the bills when they came on his desk. The executive wasn't like what they now. It's like
and did you ever see in Eisenhower's term, or not that far after Eisenhower's term, the makeup of the Warren Commission?
Yeah, well, let's say Joe Forbes was on the Warren Commission.
He was the youngest man on the Warren Commission. The Warren Commission is nothing but 80-year-old motherfucking-looking white men.
Yeah.
From the South.
They had Stimson, I know that, yeah.
From the South.
Yeah.
So in his world, in Dwight D. Eisenhower's world, everything was white and white. Not black and white.
No, yeah, that's true. But I remember in the 50s, like, the knock on Eisenhower was he left the White House every day at 2:30 to go play golf. That was the knock. He goes to play golf. He's always golfing, right? That was the knock.
Right.
But he didn't try to be more than he was, the executive. The bills came to his desk, he signed them. Now, the president tries to write the bills as well as sign them. I mean, it's like the executive branch has gotten bigger and bigger.
Well,
try to elbow Congress.
When he's not playing golf.
Yeah.
In a former administration.
Well,
I mean, Trump was pilloried for the same thing that Eisenhower was lauded for.
Congress has been so diminished that they can't even subpoena it.
Congress is the problem, not the president. If the Congress wasn't so polarized, the president wouldn't be so polarized. It wouldn't have to be so polarized.
Even the Supreme Court is polarized.
Yeah.
So you got 3 branches. It's supposed to be 3 separate branches.
Yeah.
But nothing ever works. Anyway, I don't want to get into the political end of it. Let's not go down there too much.
I will say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg now has stained her legacy forever, because she should have retired when Obama could have appointed a successor.
Well, my answer to that is, if Obama would have appointed him, would he have got it passed anyway?
Yes, he would have got it.
I don't think so.
Yes, he would have got it passed, because Obama would have appointed that Supreme Court justice in the second.
He did. I'm sorry. He did. What the guy who's the head of the Justice Department now?
Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland. And Garland is to the right of center, but they still wouldn't have passed it because Obama won.
He would have got it in.
You think so?
Especially because they refused to let Garland in.
Well, if that's the case, and let's McConnell really threw the dice, because the odds of Trump beating Hillary were kind of remote. So he really threw the dice.
Yeah, but McConnell, for as much as I dislike him, is a shrewd politician.
Oh, without a doubt.
A shrewd politician. I'll give him credit for that. Because
And let's talk about Kentucky for a second. Now they just had a bunch of tornadoes down there, and I think
and the Democratic governor is doing a great job.
Well, I'm sure he is. I mean, I
Governor Beshears.
Beshears, is that his name?
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that Ron Paul is looking for some help down there, and
yeah, he's looking for help for
Kentucky,
for FEMA, which he wouldn't give it to anybody else.
He wouldn't give it to anybody else, which is some balls, really. I mean, the same thing happened when the hurricane hit New York.
Well, he knows he's got a compassionate president when it comes to social issues, so he's going to get it.
I think if you're president, you got to be.
Of course you do.
You got to be. I mean, you got to be your president of all the people. That's the idea of, well, we're not going to give it to him because he didn't vote for me. That's
except George Bush, the second, who didn't go to Katrina, go to New Orleans for Katrina until 4 or 5 days had surpassed.
That presidency was
tainted.
Yeah, the incompetence. But I guess you can sit back and call every president incompetent.
I think you can.
You can just say you can't do it all. The job is too big, like we just said. It's
but
too big.
for my friend Gil in Massachusetts, every president but Obama.
Just to give him a hello. Hey, Gil, hello.
Only kidding. Only kidding, friend. Only kidding.
We'll say this. He did inherit a mess. I mean, I've seen already on many, many people, especially if you look at any kind of right-wing news media, this is the worst president we ever had. This guy, Joe, he's unconscious. He don't know nothing. And, I've heard people say, okay, he's failed. This guy has got 2 bills passed that were like, one's $1.5 trillion, the other one's $2 trillion. And granted, okay, they might not be the greatest bills ever, but he did get them out. And one's an infrastructure bill, which is about time somebody addressed that.
So what is somebody,
let's go to George Bush, the worst president ever. $3 trillion wars, useless. The collapse of the World Trade Center, right? The whole city of New Orleans. The whole stock market collapsed. But I'm to believe that Biden's the worst president ever?
Yeah, those are all subjectives.
Yeah.
They're all subjective discussions. I mean, you can make every president of the world, who ever lived, the worst president ever.
Yeah, I agree with you.
George Washington had like 330 slaves and never freed one of them. George
Washington left office the richest man in America.
Yeah, because he wasn't paying his slaves anything.
No, one of the things that's interesting is when you look at Washington, D.C., right, where the capital is, that's like the worst land. That's swampland.
Yeah,
that's what it was back there. It was all mosquitoes and swamps, and but Washington owned the land.
Yeah,
and they pretty much carved it up. They said, "Well, listen, if Adams is going to get the land where the post office is, well, then Hamilton's got to get this." And,
do you realize what a terrible human being George Washington was? He had 300 slaves. He was sleeping with one of them. He was.
Well, that goes to show you. He had 300. He was only sleeping with one.
That's a small fault of a good man, right?
Well, if I had 300, I think.
Come on.
No,
you can't put current standards on.
And
300 dead
people
that are dead for almost 300 years.
Yeah, no, I know you can't. But if you look back at history, it's interesting. People think that Washington was a great general. He was a lousy general, but he was a great politician.
Yeah,
he was a great politician. You're right. You can't judge people. I mean, for example, even in art, look.
You're gonna judge again?
No. Even us. When I was 30, you could say a woman was a good broad. And it was a compliment. And, Richard Burton called Liz Taylor, she's a great broad. Lauren Bacall, she's a great broad. Bogart, she's a great broad. And it was a compliment. Now, if I say I was talking to this broad, you can't say that.
You can't say that.
You can't say you were talking to a broad because it's a derogatory term. But I don't mean it as a derogatory term.
Yeah. By your standards, it's not a derogatory
term. Not at all.
That's why you're a bigot. That's why Derek is...
What do your colors think about it? But that's another thing. Look,
Derek's got to have an answer to that.
To the mic.
To the mic. I mean, that term constantly changes, right? Well, one day you're supposed to say coloreds, then you say Negroes, then you say blacks, then you say this, then you say that. I'm a Mick. I'm Irish. Narrowback. Donkey. I mean, we heard every bloody term you could hear. You as an Italian, come on, you heard WAP. You know what WAP means?
Without papers.
Without papers,
For
right?
the people that came into Ellis Island without
Without
papers.
papers, WAP, exactly. Well, you take two pieces of shit, you put it together, you throw against the wall, WAP. No, but I mean, come on, you've heard them all. You heard Guinea, you heard WAP. But I mean,
There you go.
You're from New York.
Of course.
It rolls off your back.
But I'm from New York in a different generation.
Exactly.
This generation is growing up now.
Are they too sensitive, Frank?
Well, I don't know. Derek's closer to...
No.
You
Yes.
think
Yes,
it's
they are too
time for
sensitive.
everybody to clean up their language,
But-
or you think they're too sensitive?
Well, no, I don't think it's time for. Listen, I'm for 100% free speech. So I think everybody's too sensitive, and I think we should be able to say whatever we want. And I think we were going in the right directions in the 60s and the 70s. And as we became more politically correct, I think that's when society started to sort of break apart. Because the thing is if you're not able to share your opinions about, how you feel, then you have to
Suppress it.
yeah, you have to suppress it, or you have to do it underground, right? And you start, gathering more people that have those same opinions, and then you start separating society. And so, if more people are able to share their opinions, then we probably won't have, as separated of a society. Because if I have a certain point of view in this room and I don't tell you guys, or if I do tell you guys and you guys have an issue with it, and then you say you can never say that again, then we never resolve. I never learn
I couldn't agree
that
with
my
you more.
opinion is wrong. So,
Like, I couldn't agree with you more. Polarization, political polarization. It's the worst thing that ever happened to the Republic. If you can't discuss politics civilly, how many times you've been invited down to dinner or something? No politics. Go to a bar. Let's not talk politics.
Right.
Because it's immediately like, you say what? Who'd you say what?
Well, that's the old saying. Never discuss religion or politics at a family dinner.
Right.
yeah.
Right. But I mean, if you
Well,
don't discuss it, the Republic suffers.
Let me ask Derek a question.
Okay.
If Martin Luther King or Malcolm X came along today, what do you think would happen? Because Al Sharpton is not the leader of this
Definitely
black
not.
community.
No.
Even Jesse Jackson.
The thing that's shocking to me, and I'm not old enough to really, obviously, King was killed before I was born, and so was Malcolm X. But the thing that was striking to me, having looked back at their speeches and stuff, was that they actually gave them the podium. They actually gave them the opportunity to express their opinions, even on national television. And those were pretty radical, especially Malcolm X was Martin Luther King wasn't a radical at all.
Not at all.
Yeah. But Malcolm X was a radical. Like he had, especially in the beginning before he went to Mecca and really learned the truth about his particular religion. But so to answer your question, I based, since the pandemic has happened, those two people in particular would not even be given the opportunity to speak at all. Like anything that they said would be suppressed or covered
Shut down.
up or shot down. Like they wouldn't even have the opportunity to express those opinions. And if you think about back then, like they had Malcolm X on national television.
Mhm.
That's insane.
Mhm.
Like when you think about the type, that would be like, I mean, some people want to say that Farrakhan is similar to Malcolm X and has those radical points of views. In the beginning, like in the 80s, Farrakhan was on national television.
Yeah, but nobody ever hears from Farrakhan anymore.
No, they do. He has speeches every week, but he doesn't have. I think that's what you're saying. He doesn't have He's not televised. He's not given a platform. His opinions are not shared. Broadly.
So do you think that a
To the
left wing news organization or a left wing network wouldn't wouldn't allow Malcolm X to speak or just say, here it is, what do you think? No?
No, I don't. I don't
Really?
think so. No, it's not happening.
know.
You know, it's interesting. I've been watching this show on, I can't remember what channel it is, but we've talked about it before. It's based on Bumpy Robinson and
The Godfather of Harlem.
Godfather of Harlem. I'm learning more about the civil rights movement from the
From that show.
Godfather of Harlem, because they do realistic, I suppose, realistic reconveyances or portrayals of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and the leaders of the Black community. And it's really interesting how. That's why I asked this question: if Martin Luther King came along today or Malcolm X came along today, they wouldn't be given the outlet they've got. They would be shot down by a lot of right-wing people.
So you disagree with that, Billy? You
I don't know. I mean, if it's newsworthy and it's going to draw hits, now it's all clickbait.
Okay, let me.
It's clickbait. I think if somebody was going to be controversial and they put him on, and it was going to cause clickbait or viewers, I think you'd get a shot.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Hypothetical.
Yeah.
There is no religion.
Okay.
Okay. Jesus Christ shows up on earth.
I think about this often.
And starts saying, I was born of the Virgin Mary. I was
born of a virgin.
I was born of a virgin.
I am who am.
I am
the guy
who
they sent. Yeah.
I am who said. How long do you think he would last?
10 minutes. I swear to God, you know what? It's interesting that you said this, because that's exactly what was on my mind. I was going to ask Derek, I said, you're from Mississippi, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but you got, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, you're from Mississippi. Well,
Yeah.
If Jesus, let's show he had one tunic, that's what he had, shows up in sandals, he's got long hair and a beard, he's with 12 guys that are out of work.
He'd be with the QAnons.
He's with 12 other guys that are out of work, and they show up in Mississippi and say, I'm back.
There are plenty of people that do that, by the way.
Good news. I made it. I'm back. Let's gather all the people. We're all going up there. What would you give them, 10 minutes?
Oh, maybe.
I think
the over and under would be 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, you got 12 guys that are unemployed, out of work. I mean, it does with the fishermen, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, same thing. With
and a whore. I mean, Mary Magdalene was a whore.
Yeah. Same thing with Moses.
Yeah.
Moses comes down. Hey, I'm going to part the Red Sea.
I got these 10 things you can't do from now on. No matter what you do, don't do this. Yeah, I mean,
crazy. It's
well,
crazy.
You know what?
I mean, I'm sure faith is based on believing in those things.
You gotta have
faith.
Faith. Yeah, you gotta have faith. But you know what?
You gotta have heart.
I'll give you this. Listen, we were raised. You think of God as some old guy, white guy with a beard, and his arms outstretched overlooking heaven, and then there's God the Son, who's Jesus, and then there's the bird, who's
the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit. I mean,
by the way, white.
Yeah.
Who asked that question? Who asked it? Eddie Murphy? Or Dave Chappelle? How come everything in the world good is white?
That was Dick Gregory.
Dick Gregory. Yeah. How come everything in the world is everything in the world good is white and everything in the world bad is black?
But let's take that. And I don't want to be an atheist. I mean, I have a lot of doubt, especially Catholic doubt. To me, the Catholic religion is pounded into my chest for 12 years, and I'm recovered from that. I'm done with that. But as ridiculous as it all sounds.
And don't get me started on Buddha.
Yeah,
we should talk about Buddha.
Just rub his belly. But as ridiculous as it all sounds, born of a virgin, Boulder kicks out, he goes back to heaven where he came from. E.T., if you will. Science is a little crazier. When you learn about the Big Bang Theory, and they try to tell you that the whole solar system, which is unimaginable, and it's still moving out from us, wherever it started from energy the size of a pin and blew and just started sending planets out. I'll go with the old white guy with the beard. You know what I mean? then you start talking about about science in general. I mean, the 12, now there's 12 dimensions. They're talking about 12 dimension string theory. Is that it?
String
Theory in
theory.
physics.
Yeah.
12 dimensions. Then I'll go with the virgin birth. Because science is crazier than faith. I mean, I can't wrap my head around that. What's the end of the universe? What does it end with? I've always thought about this. What ends space? Is it a wall? Is it a fence? And they say, well, on the other side of this, there's no more space. So what is the definition of God? It's something that's always been and always will be, right? So should we be worshiping space?
Well, I imagine space is like the globe. It just goes and connects into each other, and it keeps going.
Yeah, but
This is my view of space.
That's MySpace.
By the way, my MySpace's account hasn't been very active lately.
That's weird.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on.
What's going on with that?
Did they make a lot of money, those guys? They must have made a shitload of money.
You know who owns MySpace?
No.
You guys probably know this, no?
No.
Justin Timberlake owns MySpace.
Come on.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. He
bought it after it collapsed?
I can't remember. He paid some millions for it, I think. But yeah, he owns it.
He bought it after it collapsed.
Who's his financial advisor, Billy O'Connor?
That's it, kid. Buy high and sell low. But so
I mean, we should talk about God a little bit. Like, when did you guys come to the point where you if you have any questions about God or start questioning God? I know you have, because you should. I don't want to conflate God with religion.
When I moved out of my parents' house.
Okay, right. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
that's what
you didn't have any doubts before that?
I didn't think about it.
You know what? I assassinated God when he became an inconvenience.
Yeah.
As soon as I started getting promiscuous.
Okay. Oh, right.
God became an inconvenience, and I said, you know what? God is for little kids and for older people. They got one foot in the grave, and they want to, now
I believe that's true.
I think, yeah.
I mean, you got like my daughter's teaching my granddaughter the meaning of Christmas. So the meaning of Christmas in the Catholic faith is the baby Jesus.
Right.
So she's almost 22 months. She knows the baby Jesus. She knows the manger. She knows her father. She don't know the backstory, but she knows who baby Jesus is. Now, how long she believes it will be another story, or maybe she'll have infinite faith in it. Not so much that she joins the nunnery, but
hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah,
but,
that's always scary, right?
Yeah. Again, every Italian and Irish parent wanted their son
to be a priest.
Without
a doubt. Without a doubt. And they were delighted if the son was a priest.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, that's that famous scene in that was part of a running scene in Saturday Night Fever. Remember that?
No.
Sort of.
Yeah, so John Travolta's brother was a priest.
Right.
Oh, I forgot that part of it.
That's a running storyline and running theme in a lot of stories.
Yeah.
What was the? I was just watching something. I can't. I'll think of it. But let's continue.
Yeah, I don't. God became an inconvenience, so I had him assassinated. And again, I don't know how many guys I know personally that laid, relayed, and parlayed. In every kind of situation you could be in with women. And now they're born again. All of a sudden, now they're born again, and
Yeah.
Now I'm cool because I'm born again.
So we're talking about religion. I guess one of the most resolute rejections of religion can be you're not going to be buried. You could be cremated.
Yeah.
How are you going to go?
I'm cremated. I'm getting cremated. I think it's a racket. I think the whole idea of the $5,000 coffin to go down into the ground and
When did you decide that?
Probably about 20 years ago. I decided to be cremated because I really think years ago, Gate of Heaven Cemetery is not far from where you were raised.
Right.
And my people are up in Gate of Heaven, and I still, when I'm in New York. Maybe not every time I go into New York, but I'll take a ride up there. I'll say a prayer in front of my mother's grave, say a prayer in front of my brother's grave. But that people don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. parents and my brother are also in Gate of Heaven, as we have discussed, along with Babe Ruth, Billy Martin, Tommy Dorsey. But I'll do that out of respect for them.
Yeah.
But my daughter and my granddaughter are never going to be there. And my wife and I have never once been to her grandparents' resting site in Burbank. So who am I kidding?
Yeah, my youngest is 36.
But in the answer to Derek's question, I've only made this decision probably in the last 2 years that I will probably be cremated, because you can spread my ashes on the waters of Pebble Beach. I'd be happiest.
It's a great spot.
I'd be the happiest guy in the world.
Probably better for the environment too, isn't it?
Well, then taking up space in the ground, I would imagine.
I would imagine. My 3 kids, my youngest is 36. Not one of them could even find the Gate of Heaven. They wouldn't even know where their people are buried. I'm serious, unless I told them this is where it is. It's in Valhalla. Go see him.
Derek, what about you?
Cremation. And I considered. I came. That's why I asked that question, because I decided to do this in my 20s.
But the
In your 20s.
the Vikings used to bury their dead. I mean, I think didn't we have this discussion sometime in the last year of when did the people start burying in, like 1200?
Oh yeah, we did talk about that.
You know how the Vikings, I thought it was a great funeral. They used to take the dead person, put him on a boat,
and ship
the boat out, and set fire to the boat with a dog at his feet.
Yep.
There's a great movie called Beau Geste. Do you remember that film,
Yep.
Beau Geste?
Yep.
Years ago, it's Gary Cooper. I read the book, actually, and he always wanted the Vikings funeral, and that was a Vikings. Send him out to sea with a dog at his feet.
You know what? There is a great show on I want to say cable, on streaming, called Vikings.
Oh yeah.
It was
it pretty accurate?
Well,
Because
I wasn't there.
well, I can tell you what, you can go all over Ireland, and when you go all over Ireland, there's some towers. They're just towers, straight towers.
Yep.
And they're all over the place. You say, what the hell are these things for? You couldn't live in them. The towers were when the Vikings came. The Irish would go up on the towers and pull up the ladder and just say, okay, they're going to do what they're going to do. We can't do anything about it.
Wow.
But there's no reason for them to come up here. Yeah, they were all over the place. Not castles, mind you, just straight towers. Yeah. They look like smokestacks. But the Vikings were, they were.
But they used to build a fire, set the boat on fire,
and put a dog in his feet.
You know what? In the TV show, I'm not sure they put a dog at the person's feet because it wouldn't be appropriate by modern standards. So they probably left the dog off the funeral pyre, but still, they burned him up.
Yeah, in Beau Geste, there's a particularly nasty colonel in the Foreign Legion. He's a real animal. And they kill him and throw him at the foot of Gary Cooper when they bury him. It's a great novel, by the way. A great novel. But it's tough, man, with religion. But again, to me, science is just as crazy. I mean, it's...
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard of the Helia Viking Festival?
No.
I think it's held in...
You mean the one that you just looked up on a Zoom?
Oh, no, I looked it up because I want to show you pictures. I follow a guy who's I have to pull it in there. That's not it. Hold on, sorry. I follow a guy who's a sailor, and he sailed to the celebration one year.
Really?
This is what it looks like.
And where is this?
I think it's in Scotland.
You wouldn't think they'd be celebrating the Vikings
in
Scotland.
This picture's in Scotland.
Shetland.
Yeah. So.
Were they sacrificing any virgins?
Well, there's the burning boat.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, and this happens every year. I mean, that's not a good picture for me.
That looks like a clan rally.
And of course, you get the joy of having the haggis buffet in Scotland.
So my cousins and I, we're obviously all black. So we were talking about going to this and wondering if
it's not obviously that you're all black.
That's true nowadays.
Because Derek, you've got some mixed blood in you.
Yeah, I got some.
You got some white blood in you. There's two guys that got a lot of white blood.
There's two handsome devils.
Hey,
So-
go ahead.
No, so
Yeah, you got to pull your.
you would be looking to go to that? You'd like to go to Scotland?
I would like to go to that. Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I mean, because they're basically.
Well, what's stopping you?
I don't think we would be received well in this in that location. Especially, it seems like it's.
I know
First
the
of all,
Scots are very prejudiced. I don't know.
ooh,
I don't know. I don't.
I don't know either. I would not go alone. I'll just say that.
There's a lot of places I wouldn't go alone
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. And that question I asked earlier was, I mean, obviously it was meant to be a joke, but I asked a question because about being old is because obviously I'm getting older and you don't look the same as you looked when you were younger. But there comes a point where you get to a place where you don't even, you don't really resemble who you look like in your 20s, right? And I'm getting to that point now. And so I was wondering if you guys ever had that particular feeling, like you woke up.
Doesn't bother me.
No, I don't mean if it bothers you. If you remember looking in the mirror and going, "Oh wow, it's here."
No, that
I mean, we can cut this out.
No, we don't have to cut it out.
Yeah.
I don't think so. If you ask the question, that's a, what's the right word?
Subjective.
No, it's not subjective. I don't think that's an egomaniacal way of looking at it. I don't look the way I used to look.
Right.
You have to accept the way you look and move on. That's why these people who have plastic surgery are trying to stay young all the time. I mean, you can put up whoever you want, just as long as I don't know them.
Donatella, have you seen her picture?
Yeah, I have seen.
Who's Donatella?
Versace.
Oh, Versace. Oh, gee, she's
Yeah.
awful.
But I mean, people who call. I mean, even Joe Biden. He's got hair plugs. He's got a facelift. He looks. I mean,
it's kind of ridiculous.
yeah,
I mean, Botox is poison, ain't it?
yeah. I mean, if you asked me, do you think about?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like.
Do you think about?
So 93, 97, and then now.
Please get her off.
Yeah.
Okay,
she's-
get her
look
off.
at that. I mean, that's.
If you could burn her in a boat, that would be that would be fine.
There's
But-
your dog at the feet. We can get away with it.
But if you asked the question in a different way, if you said, in a joking way, what do you guys think about being in the fourth quarter?
Right.
Well, you could get a different answer.
Right.
I mean, 4 quarters. If you live to be 100, fourth quarter starts when you're 75.
That's
Right.
So, yeah. So, quite honestly, even though I say it, I'll probably only make 95, not 100.
Okay.
So I may be in the fourth quarter now, but some people are in extra innings.
Right. Well, I think you could probably. I mean, if you think about the amount of time, 25 years is a long time.
I know.
From
Not
now
when
until
you-
you're.
Not when you get close to it, though.
No,
Oh,
it is.
man,
It
it's a
is.
long
It is
time, like, especially if
because I remember playing goal at Sacred Heart, my daughter and Derek's daughter's high school, at 50, and I could dive around and I could make saves, and I can't even. I can run a little bit, but if I go from making saves and diving in the goal to walking fast or running a quarter of a mile, can you imagine what I'm going to be like in 20 years? And I work out,
Yeah.
Right.
and I'm still disintegrating.
Larry Holmes has the
left and
best
right.
line about aging. He said, "Your mind makes a date your body can't keep."
Yep.
Right.
And you know what? I noticed now. I mean, like I was bringing in wood the other day. That's pretty benign, just bringing in wood. And I was like,
What kind of wood?
no, regular wood. Burning the fire. I was like, I said, man, I am soft. I am just soft. But you get soft. That bothers me. But looking in the mirror, I still see the same guy I did when I was 25.
Interesting.
And I'm not. I mean, I know I'm not, but I still see that guy.
Yeah, and you asked that question about energy. We have the energy. I would say if a show came out now that I wanted to produce, my first instinct would say, "Oh fuck, I'm going to get that show."
Right.
after I had a little couple moments to think about it, I would say, maybe not. That's why I got a great job now, because now I can supervise the producers. I got a perfect job for me. Instead of producing the show, I can supervise the producers as a production executive. And my philosophy was, as a producer, I wanted nothing to do with the production executive. So do your job, solve your own problems, and only come to me if you really got a problem that you can't solve, and make sure I'm not surprised.
You're like the senior statesman all of a sudden.
Huh?
You're like the senior statesman. I mean, when we talk about before, the fire department, start at the fire and work your way back to the hydrant.
Right.
You know, take the guy who's 25, 30 years on a job and say, okay, now he's the chauffeur. He hooks up. He don't go in anymore. You earn that right. You earn it.
Right.
You know, over a period of time, right?
Well, I told a story before. I told a story in Lips, but at one time in 2006 or so, I was really feeling guilty about how much money I was making on George Lopez. And a friend of mine, Dominic Bruno, pulled up on a shop car, in a golf cart, because he was the head of props and set dressing at the time. And he said, "What's up? What's the matter, pal? You look down." I said, "Dominic, well, I'm feeling down a little bit. I feel like I'm not worth all the money that they're paying me." And he said, "Hey, pal, at this point in your career, you're getting paid for what you know, not how hard you work." And I said, "Thanks." And he drove off, and it solved all my problems. Solved all my problems, because in one day I can save the studio $500,000. Well, they're not going to. Well, they were paying me $500,000 then, but there are few people that can
do that.
That can do that in a day, and I would do that multiple times.
I'll give you the same analogy. You get a deputy chief standing in the street. He's not lugging line up there to go and put out a fire, physical worker, but he's standing there going, "All right, we got exposure 2 is on fire, exposure 4, we got leapers here, we got leapers."
Yeah,
he's getting paid because he's calm under pressure, and he's been there before, and he deserves the money. And he's saving lives.
And he's not going out to get cats out of the tree.
No, he's saving lives.
He's saving lives.
And saving property.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do deserve. I guess you get paid for what you know. But then again, I look at politics again, to go back to politics. The senior statesman.
Well, you got to go there every time. I navigate us away from politics. You go back there.
But these guys, they make the same mistakes over and over and over again. These are the senior statesmen. I mean, when are we ever going to fucking wake up?
That's how they keep their jobs. They keep making the same mistakes over and over and over, and they keep getting reelected over and over and over.
I think the best definition I ever heard of a politician is the last refuge of a scoundrel. It's like where they all end up. I mean,
well, you have to remember that politics is show business for ugly people.
Yeah, that's true. Some people say
that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Speaking of show business,
yes, let's speak about show business.
It's the end of the year. I'm going to cue up the Jay Thomas clip. It's the end of the year. We always relive David Letterman's tradition of having Jay Thomas, my late friend Jay Thomas, my very, 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 very good friend. He would
must be quite a kick to your friend every year on television like that. I mean, as close as you were to Jay.
Yeah, it was. It was very close. So every year he would go on David Letterman. I will tell you the genesis of the story. One year was about 1996. He was waiting in the green room. Get her off. He was waiting in the green room to go on the Letterman show, and Vinny Testaverde was the quarterback of the Jets. And he was trying to knock a meatball off a Christmas tree. And he was unable to do so. Jay, being Jay, seizing the moment, he ran out
from the green room. No introduction.
No introduction. He bowled over the stage manager, Biff somebody. He grabbed a football, and he knocked the meatball off the Christmas tree first time.
First shot.
And David Letterman, and then he told his story, the Lone Ranger story. So this is Jay. I think maybe it was the end. The last time, it was 2015, the last Letterman show.
This became an annual thing with Letterman.
It became an annual thing.
The story or the meatball?
Both.
Okay.
Because David Letterman said it's the funniest story he's ever heard. So why don't you roll it, Derek?
Now, Jay, I'm so glad you're healthy, you're recovered. You had some minor surgery last year.
Yes.
And we had John McEnroe come on to tell your story.
Unbelievable.
Jay now, as part of our holiday tradition, will tell the greatest talk show story of all time.
I just want to say I am so friggin' glad this is over. All right. I've never been so glad for some. I mean, I don't care if he retires or what happens to him. I have no interest.
Done with it.
You know, he's going to go to Montana and watch cow pies fall in the range or something. I don't know. So, when I was a young disc jockey in Charlotte, North Carolina, I used to open car dealerships like many of us did.
Yeah, remote broadcast.
Yeah, all of that, come out and, buy the car and here's the deal and have a hot dog with the kids and all. And the Lone Ranger was working, Clayton Moore, who, by the way, was born in 1914. This is his 100th birthday this year.
Oh, my God, how about that?
Oh,
he's not here.
He's dead. He can't hear you. So the applause is wasted. Save that for me. I make it up again. I like all that applause. So, he's going to open the dealership. I don't even know that I cared that much when I thought about it, but I liked him, when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. He was very quiet, and he didn't say much, and he wore that outfit. He was erect. Right. He had the mask. He had the hat. He had the guns. He had that Carolina blue outfit. Right. And so I have this, white man's afro, and I go, and I'm the screaming DJ, and I'm yelling and screaming and selling the cars.
And part of it is come down, meet the Lone Ranger.
Lone Ranger's here for the kids. Come meet the not Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger. Mm-hmm. And he was signing autographs, and people were putting guns to his head and all these politically incorrect things, and everything. And so my buddy Mike Martin is in town, dropping off my payola check, and so well, that's true. So I'm there, and Mike has long hair. He looks like David Lee Roth before he cleaned up his act. He's all, and he has on stacked heels and these tight pants and a big belt and a tie-dyed shirt, long hair like a Bay City roller, right? He's a weird-looking guy. So he's there. I'm broadcasting. It's about time for it to be over. So Mike and I go behind a dumpster, and we get herbed up.
Herbed up.
We get herbed up.
Herbed up.
Yeah. So
that's what we're waiting for. You and Mike are herbed up.
We're herbed up. So we come back in, and our eyes are rolling like BBs in a boxcar. We are like that. So I go, okay, goodbye, see you later, nice seeing you. And we start to leave, and they close it up, and the Lone Ranger is just standing by the door waiting for the car the radio station was supposed to send him. I have about a 10-year-old Volvo, and I have it parked, and Mike and I are going to go off and re-herb ourselves in a few moments. And so no one comes, and I'm thinking, well, I got to take care of the Lone Ranger. So I go over, and
so he doesn't have a ride home.
But he doesn't say anything. He just stands with the mask and the hat. And some like old hot dogs near him or something. Yeah. So I go, I really think I said Mr. Lone Ranger or something. I said, hey, Mr. Lone Ranger, would you, I'm sorry about this. Can we give you a ride back to the Red Roof Inn? And he says, yes. So Mike and I are completely loaded. I bring the car around, and I have to, push papers and push books and, wrappers, and we put the Lone Ranger in the back of my Volvo. And we do everything we can not to act stoned. So we're completely lit, and we're driving like this, and it's terrible traffic. It's dead silence in the car, and so we're sitting there for a while, and Mike we would look at each other, and he'd move his hair back every few minutes, and he'd go like this, and so a guy gets upset in front of us, an older man in a Buick, and he wants to get out of the traffic, and he's backing up, and all of a sudden he rams in to the front of my Volvo, and I can hear the light brake in the front. And then he pulls out, and he's gone. Now, this is that 5-cylinder Volvo. And I take off, and we're chasing him. We completely forget the Lone Ranger is in the back, and he's like this as I'm going through traffic. He's with the hat and the mouth. And I think I caught a glance of him in the rearview mirror, but it didn't mean anything to me. It was like part of my stone, So we take off, and I remember passing Anderson's restaurant. We catch the old bastard, and we pull up in front of him, and we both jump out. Mike with his long hair and his stacked heels, me with my white man's afro. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "What am I doing? You ran into my car." He says, I did not. Oh, yes, you did. You broke my headlight. He says, oh, really? What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to call the cops. And the guy says, well, who do you think they're going to believe? Me or you two hippie freaks? And the Lone Ranger gets out from behind. They'll believe me, citizen. And the guy, I swear to God, the guy goes like this. I didn't know it was you.
That's a great story.
I love you, pal. Miss you greatly.
That must be something for you that tears your heart to see.
Well,
that.
yeah, it tears my heart. A lot of things tear my heart, but I can't go back, and I won't go back, and I'll just remember him for all the great times we had.
Freshman year of college, huh?
Freshman year. Well, my freshman year, his sophomore year, his junior year, my sophomore year. He got there the year artists got there, and he was a disc jockey at the morning radio station in Jacksonville, Florida, the Big Ape.
The Big Ape.
Yep.
Yeah,
and he progressed to Charlotte, North Carolina, New York City, where he became the #1 disc jockey in New York City.
He was making $1 million a year as a disc jockey at one time.
Yeah. Yep.
Before he became an actor.
No, while he was an actor.
That's amazing.
He was actually doing disc jockey work in the morning and then going to do his shows. He was a morning man. So he was on from basically 5 to 9 or 6 to 9. At 9 o'clock, he would go to the studio and he would be an actor and then rinse and repeat.
He was being broadcast coast to coast. He was LA.
No, he was first in New York disc jockey. He became #1 in New York, and then he moved to Los Angeles. He became #1 in Los Angeles, the first guy ever to be #1 on both coasts because they weren't simulcasting yet. They weren't doing like Howard Stern became first.
Or Imus, yeah.
Well, not Imus was never #1.
Okay.
Howard
sounds like Howard Stern.
Well,
I know you're right.
Because Imus was never #1. But when Howard became syndicated, he was far bigger than Jay was.
Right.
But Jay was Howard's role model.
Wow.
Howard used to listen to Jay when he was growing up in Long Island. I guess they're only five or 6 years apart. But still, when you get a 21-year-old, or you get a 24-year-old disc jockey, and you're 16, 17 years old, you listen to and nobody had ever done what Jay was doing on radio. He was
the first shock jock, really.
He was really the first shock jock. He would say anything at any time to anybody.
Do you find, I mean, and just to segue away from Jay Thomas for a moment, but you just mentioned before that you get choked up about a lot of things. I find myself getting a lot more sentimental now as I get older.
Yeah.
You find that too? You feel?
Yeah. I look in the mirror and I don't mind what I see in the mirror, but I have an accumulation of memories
without a doubt,
that I hope never go away because I don't want to lose my mind.
Yeah, and the things that touch you now are simpler but more profound. You know, they like you said, your grandkids, and that's I mean, when we were growing up, I mean, I love my kids. My kids love me, thank God. But you're so busy earning a buck, you don't get to really realize the joy of what you're seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why we wrote If These Lips Could Talk, because I wanted to give my granddaughter, my granddaughter
know who you are,
and my daughter to look back and know who I was.
Yeah.
And what I did.
Yeah.
And thanks to you, I was able to do that.
Well, I feel the same way about my grandkids. I live in California. My grandkids are in New York. And I call my daughter all the time, and I says, I want them to know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for better or for worse, I want them to know who I am. You know, I want them. I don't want them to say who is that guy, because I never met my grandparents, any of them, on my father's side or my mother's side. And that might seem unusual, but not if you're born in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
In 1950, I came here to this country by boat, and it wasn't like you just hop on a plane when you're 7 years old. I'm going to go see my grandparents. No. When you left Ireland, you were leaving for good.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents, my mother, I mean, at 27, never expected to see her mother again either. You know, that the famous song of Danny Boy. Well, that's the song. If you listen to the lyrics, it's about a New York funeral, and that's what they called it. When you went to New York, they were burying their son. You know, come ye back when sun crossed the meadow, whatever. Dead I may well be. I mean, sure you're going to be dead. You know, so
yeah. Well, you know,
I never met my grandparents.
Life has a matter of putting that stuff in perspective, and the closer you get to the end of it, the more and more you think. I mean, I've probably had 8 to 10 good friends pass away.
That's saying a lot.
Pass away.
Well, but
They're gone. They're the only place that they will remain in my life is in my memory. Fortunately, now, I mean, you know, in 1970, Jacksonville made the NCAA finals against UCLA. They lost, but it was a tremendous time in my life. And I'm glad that I produced a documentary about that time because, like that book, now somebody can go back, somebody can go to YouTube or wherever and see what that team was all about.
Jacksonville who? It's documented.
And see, it's on YouTube. It's called Jacksonville Who, and you can see the point of view from the guys that were there. And I did that because we had 4 guys passed away in their 50s, and another one passed away in the 60s. And since I did the documentary, 2 more have passed away. Wow. So that's 7 or 8 guys out of 13. It's an incredible number. So I'm glad I preserved that time, or my memory of that time. I mean, it's not told from my point of view because I did I told it from the players' point of view, but I put a lot of my heart and soul into that just for this because I love the university so much.
How long did it take you to make that? Like, how much time did you put into it? First of all, it's fantastic.
It's a great documentary.
And I'm not saying that because I know you and you're my friend.
No, it's a really good documentary.
Yeah, you did an excellent job. And it should be on Netflix. It's so much better than so many other things that are on that.
Yeah. Well, Netflix almost took it. I ultimately sold it to the NBA television. That's where it aired. But from the day I conceived the idea, I mean, I've always wanted to do it. And as time went along, I got busy doing other things. I thought it would be my entree into the film world. I turned out to be wrong. But I had
There's still 25 years left.
Yeah, but it's already done.
No, I mean for you to get into the film world.
Well, I was in the film world.
No, but I mean again.
Oh, well, if somebody wants to make Jacksonville Who, I will. But I had to raise the money for it. I used real money, plus I used favors. And I probably used about $500,000 worth of favors on that because that's why it looks so rich.
Oh. Okay.
And I used, I called in a lot of favors on that. But from the time I got serious about it, I got serious about it in Jacksonville. I was at dinner with artists and
Artist Gilmore. We're talking.
Artist Gilmore, David Scott, the astronaut, and his wife Mag Scott, my friend John Harrison, Chuck Woodhouse, and I said, "What would you guys think of this idea?" And they said, "I thought it was great." They said they thought it was great. I said, "Well, I got to come up with $250,000. Do you want to finance it?" And every one of them said no.
Yeah,
but that's not true because a few of them did said yes, and a few of them got another few members of the board of trustees to say yes. And the president of the university, Tim Cost, was a big supporter of the project, and that's how we got to use the NCAA footage. And it's a good deal of NCAA footage in there. So,
and that's like you said that's difficult to get your hands on, right? For the NCAA to prove that is like
yes, and requests coming from the president of the university, Tim Cost was
carried some weight,
carried an indelible amount of weight.
Well, you know, when I was at UF, of course, they won 2 national championships, but that was Florida. You're talking about Jacksonville U, which is a the
smallest university ever to make the NCAA finals.
To go up against mighty UCLA.
Mighty UCLA.
Now, was Indiana State when they went for the NCAA finals? That was later, of course. That was Larry Bird.
That was 1980, 79.
Were they smaller than Jacksonville?
Billy, I just said it's the smallest university ever to make the
Yeah.
finals.
So
that means it was smaller than Indiana State. Yes,
Yeah,
the
well,
smallest ever.
I'm just.
This actually the second smallest ever also made the finals in 1970, St. Bonaventure.
Oh, I didn't know that. St. Bonnie was that small. Yeah.
Yep. St.
So I
Bonaventure.
mean, when you're a student at school and that happens,
Oh, it's amazing.
it's amazing. It's incredible.
And it was great being in Jacksonville during the 70s because Artis Gilmore was there, Jay Thomas was there, Bruce Helford was there. Bruce Helford is the creator, is executive producer of the Connors, George Lopez show, a lot of shows. A lot of people were there that went on to great things. I was just so thrilled and excited to be there. And it was at Jacksonville when I discovered that people from small towns can do great things. And I think really that my time at Jacksonville set me off to become, as whatever success I've had, I attribute it to those years at Jacksonville, because my father and mother, my father's definition of a good job would be go to the meat market Safeway, become an assistant manager or a manager, get yourself a pension, or work on the fire
Take
department.
a civil service test.
Work on the fire department, civil service, be a postman.
Get a little something for yourself.
Get a little something for yourself. Get out after 20 years, and you got it made.
That's almost every father.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's
obviously,
it's not me. But there at Jacksonville, I discovered that people from small places can do great things.
you never know. You never know what you can do unless you try. I mean, look, people told Beethoven he'd never be a composer because he was deaf. Did he listen?
Well,
that's hilarious.
He didn't listen.
Did you just think of that joke, or have you used it before?
I used it before.
And you'll use it again.
I'll use it again. Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you can do until you try. Yeah, but that did have a profound influence on you and gave you the gumption to say, look, I can do anything. You can do whatever you can do. Who knows what you can do?
I have a question along those lines. Okay, so the question is, what's the hardest thing in your life? So I'm going to set it up. What's the hardest thing in your life you've ever done? And don't give me the cliche of raising my family.
No. I'm going to give you. There's no doubt in my mind. The hardest thing I ever did.
And what I'm asking is, it's like, it's one of those hard times in your life where you're like sitting in your office or in your bedroom, and you're like, how am I going to get through this?
The hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, without a doubt, doesn't even have to trigger it immediately, is sobriety. The hardest thing. I mean, because if you're addicted to something, if it's something that you think about 24/7, and you shelter your whole life around it, and all of a sudden you say, I'm not going to do this anymore, it's, I'm prouder of that than anything I've ever done in my life, sobriety. And I still think about it. I've been sober like 14, 15 years, and I still think about it every day. Like, wouldn't it be nice just to have a couple of glasses of wine with dinner? Shit, man, I should be able to have a couple of beers on the weekend. It's been 14 years. Maybe a little bit of scotch just to induce slumber, like it never stops. So, yeah, that's without a doubt the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And the thing I'm most proud of.
That's awesome. And when that happened, so the first, did you go to a program?
I was in and out of programs, all kind. I've been in Gamblers Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Drugs Anonymous, and I got some funny stories of Gambling Anonymous. There's some fucking hilarious stories. And true stories, because you can't make the shit up.
Why don't you share one with us?
Well, I'll give you a quick one. It was a guy, he says, he was equipped to tell a story in Gamblers Anonymous. Well, one time I'm sitting in Gamblers Anonymous, this guy comes in, he's about 400 pounds, and the guy's late for the meeting. We're already half an hour into the meeting, and this guy walks through the doors and goes, and if some son of a bitch tells me that I gamble because I want to lose, I'll break his fucking neck. That was his opening line. I was like, what the fuck is this guy, right? But the guy told the story. He said, I was up here, he says, and I was telling my story, and I said, I'm such a sick gambler. I'm such a sick bastard that when this meeting's over, at 7:30, I'm going to get in my car. I'm driving over to Yonkers to catch the last 4 races. And he said, I went out to my car. There was 5 guys from the meeting wanted to know if they had room in the car for him. So what are you proud of? What do you think is...
Well, I'm proud of a lot of things. I don't know what was the hardest thing I ever did. There was one time I had given up an advertising career to try to be a producer, and after 2 to 3, I was making $70,000 as a vice president of an advertising firm in
What year was this?
San Diego in 1981, 82, 83. So I was pretty much in the chips. I then decided to marry my wife. We had a year later, we had our daughter. And I decided, well, shit, I got to be a producer. If I don't do it now, I don't want to use my wife and my daughter as an excuse. So my wife was great about it. She said, "Fine, we'll go to LA and you try to be a producer." And I had moderate to no success. I made $12,000 the next year. The year after that, I made maybe double that. And
Did you have some money saved?
Oh, yeah, I had a little bit of money saved.
Yeah.
And Karen was working.
Okay.
So Karen was basically
paying the bills.
Well, no, we were both paying the bills because she wasn't making that much either. But if I was making $20,000, she was making $20,000. Yeah. So with $40,000, you could live.
Right.
In those days. And then we had a book out that I wrote with Armin Katayan. I was representing Rod Carew, but I really wasn't making that much money. So I was just getting by. And just as I was getting ready to
pack it
in, and I had an office. I had an office in Burbank, a 2-suite office. I was running a commercial production company with Howard Storm and Howard Morris that wasn't doing very well. And just as I was getting ready to pack it in, we got a huge call for a commercial, to bid a commercial, and we got the job. And we made $100,000 profit on that job. And that gave me, Howard got his share, and the guy who sold the job got his share.
Well, let you know you can make money in this business.
It let me know that I can make money in this business, but I didn't want to continually hustle for my next job and my next job and my next job. So within a short period of time after that, I got head of the class and I got out of the commercial business. But that was the only time it was a low, and it wasn't that hard anyway. So I didn't do nearly what you'd had accomplished to do that.
I think, success, and again, my success has been nothing moderate, if anything, but it's the joy of doing it. If getting there is half of it. It ain't.
Yeah.
Once you're there, it's like, okay, you've done that, and
no, it's not.
I've done that. I'll look back at that.
No, it's not. Once you're there, you're reaping the rewards of your success.
Yeah, but getting there is just is fun.
That's bullshit.
You don't think so? Man, I think it's fun. Well, I've never had a lot of success. My life has been one fun after the other.
It's fun in retrospect because you look back on it with fondness because you succeeded, but you don't look back on it. I don't think anybody who never made it, and I'm not, because I think I've never accomplished what you've accomplished in your life.
I look just the opposite. I'm thinking the same thing about you.
But I've never seen anybody who has not made it who's looking back as on bad days as the good old days. You got to have good old days to look back.
Yeah, that's true. But I think if you get out of bed every morning with the idea I'm going to have a good day today, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah, how many people do that? 10%.
I don't know. I've had fun all my life.
10%. Yeah, but you. I believe that. I believe that.
I really do. I get out of bed with the day I'm going to fucking have a good day.
And what's that sickness called?
Gambling, alcoholism.
No, but what's that sickness called?
Unipolar manic depression.
Unipolar manic depression. Yeah. That means you're always up.
Always up.
Always up.
Except for a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, I'm usually up. I'm always up.
And I've got up every day, looking forward to what the day's going to bring.
Well, that's good.
Except today when I knew we had to do this.
You knew we would be burdened with my company. All right. Shit. So I guess we've given them enough bullshit for today. Huh? We think
Yeah,
burden enough for our company. How long we been going here today, Derek?
doesn't make any difference. We could go.
Yeah.
I know Derek's going to say, "See how quick it went. See how good we would."
Hey,
we should do this once a month.
It's been over an hour.
We should once a month. We should do. Derek's going to say once a month we should do this.
Well, I like talking to
regardless.
you. You're an interesting guy. You've always given a couple of new take. Derek's always interesting. I could. This is just like me. Three guys sitting in a bar, bullshit. You know, it's. And when we have a guest, I mean, it's always good because these are people of note, and it's always good to pick their brain. But I find out again, back to the old one leg at a time. You know, everybody's the same fucking person. There's no more.
Well,
nobody's any different. Some are successful, some ain't. So what?
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good way to. We should close it in a bit, but I think it's a good way. I think we should maybe go over to wrap up the episode. If you guys learned anything from the 52 episodes and the 52 interviews, what would you say if we were to maybe come up with three to five points?
What would you say, Derek?
The thing that was most, which I think Billy touched on, the thing that was most stark for me was how much luck was involved in the success of so many people. And it's not so much that they even mentioned that they were lucky, because some of them did. It was that, one guy, the actor that did the was it Blazing Saddles?
Yes.
He turned the guy down like 3 times. He turned down
Mel Brooks. He
yeah.
down 3 times. Yeah.
I thought that was incredible. So it's almost like he was
Bubba Gilliam.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Bubba. It's almost like he was destined to do that, to be in that role.
Don Scardino carried a script around, and he knew a young script writer. He gave it to him, and
Aaron Sorkin.
It turned out to be Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah,
a few good men. I love that. One of my favorite quotes about being prepared is Lincoln. He said, "If you gave me 10 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 8 hours sharpening my axe." Yeah.
Hey.
Which says it all.
Oh, it does.
You know, but we're talking about luck before. Was it Grant Rosenberg that was Kevin Costner's next door neighbor?
Yep.
And Costner said he wanted to make Dancing with Wolves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Rosenberg said, "You're out of your mind. You're crazy. It's too long. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to lose your ass."
But he was adamant about him not doing it.
Yeah. And then he goes to show you nobody knows nothing.
And he's proud enough of that story to tell it.
Yeah.
Because he's been Grant Rosenberg has been so successful in his career that he could make fun of himself by telling that story.
Yeah. I mean, and he says, show business, no. And it makes so much sense. He says,
why don't you put that graphic up of all the...
He said, you can't have a movie that's 3.5 hours, because even in the theaters, you can only show it twice as opposed to 3 times.
Right.
It'll cost you a fortune. It's not going to work. You're going to put your own money into it?
Yep.
What do you might, even I know that. If you've got an idea, you try not to put your own money into it. I mean, Donald Trump made a living doing that.
Yep. Let's see, who else was lucky?
But they were all lucky doing something. Perry Rogers. I mean, look at where he grew up.
Look at his high school.
Yeah, look at the guys in his high school class. That's pretty damn lucky.
Yeah.
Well, Adrienne Barbeau had 2 sets of luck.
Why you got to be like that?
Well, she was.
Sorry, Adrienne. Can't help
Sorry,
yourself.
Adrienne. I couldn't help myself. I just saw a picture and it just triggered that. I'm sorry.
Tony O is maybe the luckiest guy in the world. You know, he deigned to speak Italian to Frank Sinatra. And Frank Sinatra
and
responded to it. And he stayed with Frank Sinatra for 30 years.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Brett Butler, his piece of advice, fantastic piece of advice. Know who you are.
Know who you are.
Don't go up there looking to hit a home run. Know who the hell you are. Know what you're there for. Get on base.
Richie Picciolato, look for the light.
Look for the light. Richie Picciolato. And here's a guy, Richie. I told you, I was on a sailing trip with another chief. He said, "I know this son of a bitch for 30 years. I could never get a sentence out of him." He says, "Since 9/11, he hasn't shut up."
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at these guys, though, man. Look at all. Dwight Hicks.
Steve Peterman wanted to be an actor. Instead became an extremely successful executive producer.
Dwight Hicks and the Hot Licks.
Yep.
Look at that, guys. Look at you guys.
Yeah,
Look
we've
at
done
this.
a lot
This
of
is-
really good shows, man.
this-
Howard Storm, talk
Pep-
about a talent.
Peppy still doesn't know my name.
Peppy just got hooked up in Florida with some blonde. He's the new love of his life.
Peppy Castro,
Doug the Glue Flynn. Oh man, we've had some good.
Susan Egan, Matthew Lawrence.
Mark Sweet, the hypnotist. God, he was funny. He
Yeah.
did some great bits.
Yeah, that was pretty
Dan
cool.
Issel.
Yeah, Dan
There's-
Issel.
Well,
there's Bubble.
it was a great year. Anyway,
Yeah, it was a great year. Frank, and like I said, I want to thank you again. I met some really interesting people on the show. And actually,
and anybody who we didn't mention, we value your appearance.
Man, we've had some great guests. And thank you so much for all of them. And yeah, it's just...
And these are only views on, to get it down before
this is just on. This is on YouTube. You guys are famous
YouTube.
on. You're
We're
famous on
famous
Facebook.
on Facebook.
Yeah, Leslie Visser. I had a great time
Oh, she's the
interviewing
best.
Leslie.
She's the
And
best.
I had a great time interviewing her.
She's
You
the
know?
best.
Yeah, it was just it's just been a great ride.
Upton Bell.
Upton Bell.
They're going to start coming to Joe Regobuto. They're all going to start coming to us. Faith Ford, Grant Shout, all of them. So with that, drive safely on New Year's Eve, please. We want you to come back to see the show after the New Year's. We'll have Tony O'Dell on, and
I give you my old friend Buffalo used to say all the time. I says, "You drove home last night. The condition you were in." He said, "I had to drive home. I couldn't walk." No, drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly. Call an Uber, and hopefully the Uber will be sober.
Love you all. Thanks for looking in. Give us another year. Look in some more. I'm having a ball. I hope you have half as much fun as me and Frank are having.
And Derek, too.
And Derek. I'm sorry. Excuse me. And Derek.
All right. Thanks so much.
Adios.
Bye.
Adios.
Happy New Year.
Next week's guest, actor, head of the class, The Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, Tony O'Dell.